The UK's battered high street has seen torrid times of late, but after a summer of relatively positive economic news, is the outlook starting to change? Well, joining me now to talk about it is the chairman of the John Lewis Partnership, Sir Charlie Mayfield. So Charlie, can I just start by asking you about the address we've just seen by the new Governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney. What do you make of what the Governor said?
I was impressed by what he said. I think this is a man who's got a clear view about what we need to do to re-establish confidence in the banking system and indeed the sort of underlying structure in banking that's necessary for banks to do what they need to do, is to recycle capital. So no, I thought it was very credible and encouraging.
Now, just in terms of the recovery, what are you seeing across the country? Where are we, do you think, in terms of the recovery itself?
So I think we have to really ask the question about what recovery are we talking about. Where I think there is real evidence is that the banking system, financial sector is in a better shape, much better shape than it was 5 years ago. I also think that companies' balance sheets have significantly improved, and what we are beginning to see is rising confidence, and that's very important, and of course that's what ultimately drives consumption and consumer behaviour. But the other distinction I would draw is between a cyclical recovery and a structural recovery. And while today what we were hearing about from the Bank of England Governor was really about the financial markets and getting them into shape, the other side of the coin is what companies do with that money in the real economy. And real sustainable growth is driven by innovation and building capability. And so we've still got to see that really coming through strongly, and that will lead to a sustained recovery.
Now, what about your different stores across the country? Is the recovery that you're seeing confined to stores in the south, or are we starting to see a pickup in other regions in the country as well?
No, what we've seen is actually a fairly even performance across the country. There aren't the sort of regional variations people often talk about, which I think says that probably what we're seeing is sort of a broader based change rather than anything else. But what I'd also say is that we haven't actually seen a particular step up in the rate of growth that we're seeing in both Waitrose and John Lewis versus what we were seeing 6 months ago. So we've actually seen growth through the recession. We've not seen a sort of step up in response to some kind of recovery in the economy as a whole. And I think it's probably fair to say that for the retail sector as a whole, while most people are saying they think the signs are looking more positive, they've yet to see that really feeding through in the market as a whole to significant increases in potential or appetite to consume.
And after some relatively positive economic data that we've seen over the summer, how optimistic are you about the Christmas period this year? Well,
certainly, put it this way, it's better than it would be if confidence had gone the other way. So I think that will look better. But it's all to play for, and Christmas is a key time of year for lots of retailers, and ultimately success is going to depend on how good their offer is and the service, not actually so much on the economy.
Now, we saw a string of big name high street chains go out of business, of course, earlier in the year. Do you think that the tide has started to turn there, and perhaps won't be quite as many casualties in the future, or are there perhaps still too many mouths to feed on the high streets?
Well, I think that a rising tide in the economy is clearly helpful to retail businesses, so that will be a helpful backdrop. But I think the point to really call out is the key change that's taking place, that's driving some of the restructuring in the retail sector, is less about the economy, although it's a big factor. It's actually more about the influence of technology on how people behave and how consumers behave in particular. That's what's driving it. And the businesses that get their strategies right, succeed. If they don't, in a tougher economy, then of course they can fail, and perhaps fail more quickly than they might do in other circumstances.
Just a final question on the John Lewis partnership. Should it perhaps be renamed the Waitrose partnership, given that's now a much bigger part of the business?
No. But I think the key thing is, although that might entertain journalists and business commentators, the point is what we do is we use Waitrose and John Lewis as our consumer-facing brands. They're the brands that our customers shop with, and that's the ones they really, really need to know. The John Lewis partnership is 150 years ago. The John Lewis business was founded. The partnership was founded. The idea really nearly 100 years ago, and it stood us in really good stead. So I think it'll continue.
And just a final question: how long do you see the tie-up between Ocado and Waitrose remaining? Will it be forever, do you think?
Well, we'll see. We signed a 10-year deal. That's got another 5, 6, 7 years to run. Actually it's suiting both parties. The relationship is going well. I mean, clearly sometimes we have issues within that, and some of those have been publicised, but by and large that deal is doing what it should do, which is allowing us to work together and for both businesses to grow.
Charlie Mayfield, thank you very much.